Hey Russell fam, today I am doing an interview with Joel from Passionate Homeschooler. Be back in just a second. Hi, my name is Becky and welcome to Russell's Loving Life. We also have a blog which is russellslovinglife.com where we talk about all things homeschool. If you're new to our channel, welcome. We are so glad you are here. Please consider clicking that little subscribe button and bell notification down in the bottom. If you are a returning Russell fam, we are so glad you are back. In today's video, you are going to see highlights from an interview that I did with Joel from the Passionate Homeschooler. He reached out and wanted to ask me some homeschool questions to put on his podcast. So we teamed up, and I will leave a link in the description box below for all of his information.
Welcome, Becky Russell, to the Passionate Homeschoolers podcast. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, no problem. All right, so let's just jump into your background and how you came into the homeschooling world. So let's talk about how you got into it in the first place.
Well, I never expected to homeschool. I went to college, I got my business degree, and I found out I was pregnant. I wasn't supposed to have children. Found out I was pregnant, and my son was born 8 weeks early. They didn't expect him to make it. He was in the NICU for a while, and then he got out, and he was at home for a while. We put him in daycare because that's what you do when you work. You put your kids in daycare. And the third day there, he got sick, and he stayed sick until he was about 2.5.
Wow.
And my pediatrician said his body can't take it. He's got to come out of daycare. You've got to come home with him. When a premature boy is born, their lungs don't develop fully. And so their lungs are still developing until they're like 8 years old. So he caught anything and everything. He had tubes at 12, his tonsils out before he was 3. I mean, you name it, he had it. And he was so sick. And with him being that sick, our pediatrician said, bring him home. My husband and I considered homeschooling. We talked about it. We didn't plan on it. And then we said, you know what? This is what's going to be the best for our family. So we just started homeschooling him. And then I got pregnant with our second one, and we said, you know what? We've been homeschooling one. We'll just go with the second one, and have enjoyed every moment of it since.
Wow, that's not an entirely isolated story, though. This is one of the unexpected reasons why parents do homeschooling, because their children either have special needs or special medical conditions that require a lot of attention. But you decided to keep going with it with your other children, who presumably are normal and healthy, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. My daughter, she's our youngest, and she's been healthy from the get-go. She was born early, but she's been healthy. She never had to go to NICU, and she's never had tubes, and still has her tonsils, and she just turned 6. So, when it comes to healthy, she's there. But since we were already homeschooling him, and I saw how much I enjoyed it, I said, you know what, we're just going to keep the process going.
Okay, so you've been homeschooling since when 2012, I think, was on your website. Is that right?
Yes, I started homeschool in 2012. So technically he was preschool when I started homeschooling, but now my son he will be 11 in September, and he will be going into 6th grade. And my daughter just turned 6, and she will be in 1st grade in the fall.
Okay, so you've got the 2 kids, right? And
yes.
Okay, so there was definitely a medical reason that originated your decision, but what was it about the experience that was so rewarding to you, or so important that you wanted to keep going with it? What was it about that first time out?
It was those little aha moments. You know, when your kids are little and you got to see them take their first steps, you know, hear their first words, those type things, those were great. And those just continue when you're homeschooling, because you get to see those milestones of when you're teaching them something and they're like, oh, they finally comprehend it. That light goes off and they're so excited that they mastered this on their own. Or just spending time with them is so important to me. And so we just continued to keep going, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah, that is one of the consistent themes that's running through this podcast and with the people that I interview. And that's one of the rewarding things about doing this podcast, is that I see these consistent things happening with the parents that I talk to, that those moments where you see the light bulb go on are these are experiences that can't be reproduced in any other way. So
You can't. And
yeah.
yeah, it's like missing, you know, when they're in daycare, missing their first steps. And the teacher's not going to tell you, oh, they took their first steps today, because they don't want you to be upset or, you know, disappointed because you missed them. It's those moments that just keep going their entire life as a homeschool parent that you get to enjoy.
Can you imagine what it would have been like if you just gone through what I guess we would now call it a traditional um, a traditional path of parenting, where you put your kids either in the daycare or the kindergarten or the traditional classroom school? Can you imagine what that would be like as compared to what your life is now?
I can imagine it, and I don't want to imagine. I mean, I don't want to have that life of where I work full time and I come home and I hurry up and I cook supper, or we hurry up and go to sporting events or our extracurricular activities, or just always in a hurry. And by the time you get home, it's time for them to go to bed. I don't want that. I want the little moments of that I get to spend the time with them, that I get to enjoy everything. And we don't have to be in a hurry. We don't have to be in a rush. We get to enjoy each other as a family.
Wow, that's great. I can hear just the pure joy in your voice as you relate this story to me. But now I want to ask you, so you've been doing this for a while. How have things changed from when you started to how you're doing it now?
When I first started, I started with My Father's World, which is a box curriculum. And I recommend any homeschool first-time parent, whether it is a Christian-based curriculum or secular, like Easy Peasy is one that people use. I recommend the box curriculum because it tells you what to say, it tells you what to do, it takes that anxiety away your first year of being a homeschooling parent. I was so overwhelmed, and I felt like I had so much that I had to cover, so much I had to do, because I came from a public school. My husband came from a public school, and we knew what we went through. And going through that, I'm like, okay, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And now that I've learned my teaching style, my children's learning style, I don't feel that I have to cover all of this in one day or in one sitting. My big tip to any homeschooling veteran or new homeschooling is take a break whenever you need it. You know, if you're frustrated, if your child is frustrated, they're not going to learn anything. You're not going to teach it to them. Take a 5-minute break, take a 30-minute break. And I learned that over the years of, if your child's frustrated, they're not going to learn, no matter what curriculum you use, no matter what methods you use. They're just not going to do it. And you have to focus on your child's learning style and what your child is interested in. You know, like this year we did Rome to Reformation for Bailey, and he's not a big Julius Caesar fan. He did not like learning about it, but to me, that was important because it was part of history that he needed to learn. And so I had to cater some of it to his learning style. So instead of him just sitting down reading, you know, a bunch of books, we had to make it fun. We had to make it creative. And he was fine with it from there. My daughter Becca, she is the type of child that can sit still and put together a 600-piece Lego set and be fine with it. My son, he is a 3rd-degree black belt. He's got to be constantly moving, got to be doing something. So it just depends on your child. And that is what I have learned. There's not a one-size-fits-all, but I do recommend the box curriculums because it gives you a jumping off point. It gives you that starting point that some parents feel so overwhelmed of, okay, what curriculum do I use now? What do I do with this? And so over the years, I have added things to what we do. We still use My Father's World, but I've added Saxon Math in there for both of them. Grammar, I have added that in there for Bailey because I didn't feel that he was getting what he needed from, the My Father's World curriculum. So you just do what your child needs. And that is the only advice I can offer parents is just take a breath and learn your child.
Well, and obviously it sounds like there was a lot of trial and error in there. And I want to kind of unpack that, what you sort of described as the beginning stages when you first started doing this. Because, the feeling of overwhelm and the feeling like the parent has to do everything has got to be a major part of every homeschool parent's first experience, first crack at this. So if you could take us back to what those first few months were like, how did you come to the awareness that you needed to find a curriculum that would work for you, rather than feeling like you had to do everything else or everything out of the box?
It is all about a support system. There is such a huge and growing homeschool community out there, whether it is in your neighborhood, belonging to a homeschool group that we belong to. Now with Facebook, there's Facebook groups, so much social media platforms out there that support system is so important. It's getting these questions answered. Podcasts like yours, giving new parents, new homeschooling parents the information, putting it out there for them so they don't feel that overwhelming. They can take a breath and not feel like they're doing a disservice to their child or they're letting their child down or not teaching them what they need to know. Just relying on other homeschool families has been the greatest help to me to take me back from the beginning, because we would go to homeschool meetings when Bailey was in kindergarten. That's my oldest son. And I would ask him questions. I would say, okay, this isn't working for him. Have y'all experienced this? Or this works great. Is there something else I can do to build on this? And just having someone there to answer my questions and help me figure it out was the best thing for me.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end it than on that note. So thank you, Becky Russell, for appearing on the Passionate Homeschooler podcast. Where can where can people find you?
You can find me at russellslovinglife.com. That is our blog, and our YouTube channel is Russell's Loving Life as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure, and best of luck to you.
Thanks for having me. I have enjoyed it so much.
You're quite welcome.
I hope you found this video to be fun, to be informative, and always remember to be kind, be careful, be considerate. Have a great day. Bye.